It is a huge, huge honor today to be interviewing Juli Kagan, who I first met her husband first. Her husband is David, and he is the most adorable entrepreneur, free spirit. I mean, your husband is the most balanced dentist I know. He's got a place. He lives on his house is on the ocean. I've spent the night in before, facing the Atlantic Ocean, and then he has another house on the other side in Santa Monica, California, facing the other ocean. Which ocean does he like more?
Right now, he likes California,
He
but
likes California more. Is that just because it's more new? How long has he had a place out there?
well, about 5 years. It's a mobile home, Howard. It's a free. I'm a double wide.
But and you say he just likes to wake up on the ocean and rollerblade and do yoga?
Yeah, he's got a great life.
And in all seriousness, I don't want to tell my own horn, but is he not seen me lecture more than any other dentist
I
alive on
think
earth?
he's your absolute number one fan. He's like a grateful Howard Farran head.
He is. I love seeing him. He's the only guy I know that laughs at all my jokes. I don't think I've ever offended him one time. He even laughs on jokes that should be thrown out. But he's amazing. And speaking of that, tonight I get to do Tempe Improv tonight. So I get to do my stand-up comedy routine at the Tempe Improv. That has had some of the most, the biggest names in comedy. So
Good for you. You're spreading your wings.
well, it's so confusing to me because when I do the comedy clubs, they always say the same thing. Oh my God, you're so clean. You have the cleanest act. You didn't say the F word, blah, 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 blah. And then you didn't say anything about sex or violence or, rape or racism or any, and then I go do a dental convention, same exact act. Oh my God, that was just a little edgy hard. I mean, we had some complaints and all. It's like, dude, how come I've done 19 comedy places in Arizona and they all tell me I have the cleanest act? And
That's
then every
hysterical.
damn dental convention tells me that Mrs. Wimpleton was offended about some joke where I mentioned, trailer, born in a barn. I mean, it's
You
context
are
is.
on the edge. You are on the edge in some dental meetings, I will say.
Well, I'm on the edge if you're at church or a dental meeting, but if you're at the Tempe Improv, I swear to God that the other comedians tonight will make me look like Pope Francis.
A virgin.
Yeah. So the reason I was so excited now, David is a dentist, you're his wife, you're a hygienist, but what I think is so important to you, where I just adore what you're doing, is dentist has a lot of occupational hazards. In fact, I want to push out on my Facebook page today the Business Inside talked about did you see that, the 20 most, well, I'll find it later, I'll email it to you, but they were talking about the occupations that have the most personal injuries, and dentistry made the list. And you know what? I was in that category up till age 50. I mean, I could barely move my neck. When I was driving my car and I go to change lanes, there's electrical bolt. You go tell your doctor and they just want to put you on drugs, and I didn't want to do any pharmaceuticals. And finally I just, it was actually my friend, Tom Mattern. He's a dentist. His wife, Sharon, just literally almost barked at me in my garage, said, Howard, I'm going to yoga right now. Come to yoga with me right now. And I just thought, whatever. And so I went to hot Bikram yoga, and I swear to God, it was love at first sight. I only did hot Bikram yoga. I did the 90-day challenge where I did it every day for 90 days. And I would say in 3 weeks, all my neck pain was gone. And then you meet these dentists and they're like, yeah, I have to go have carpal tunnel syndrome. And you want to be a nice guy, but you just want to say, well, you know what? If you just did like one push-up in the last decade, maybe your hands would flatten out and your ligaments and tendons would feel better. And why are you going to go get surgery and take pills when you can't even do a push-up? And I'm the poster child, because I can say this because I was as fat and lazy, and I was 50 years old and 238. And for 3 years, my physician wanted to put me on high blood pressure because I was at 140/9. 3 years, he begged me, and I said no. He wanted to put me on a statin for cholesterol. 3 years, I said no. I finally, at 50, I said, okay, this is bullshit. I'm going to work like I work 15 hours a day. I haven't exercised in a couple decades. And I signed up for the Ironman. And at the end of the Ironman, I went back into my physician, and he said, Howard, I couldn't have lowered your blood pressure this low with medication. You lowered it to 118/68. He
Oh
said,
my gosh.
he said, you cut your pulse, your resting pulse, almost in half.
That's
And he said, and I couldn't have lowered your cholesterol this low with a statin. and I don't take a pill. I do take thyroid. I thought it would cure my low thyroid too, but it didn't. He said that it won't affect thyroid. So I do take thyroid. That's the only medication I take every day. I take 0.88 milligrams of thyroid. I don't know if with HIPAA if that means I can now sue myself for disclosing it. Do you think I make some money on that? I'm going to sue myself after this for, but so the bottom line is what I love about you is, I mean, I just meet hygienists and dentists all day long that are just painfully miserable. I know more dentists buying a microscope just so they can look into the microscope and don't have to tilt their head forward because their neck is killing them. So I'm a fat, bald guy. You're the master of stretching and yoga. Take it from here. I mean, do you think a miserable, painful hygienist, dentist whose back hurts and neck hurts and all this, do you think they can really get off the couch, put their donut down, and stretch their way to feeling better?
You know, Howard, you are the poster child because this is my profession. I teach yoga and Pilates all day. And I will tell you that yoga is the drug of choice. No doubt about it. I get too many people that after just a few sessions feel remarkably better. And so much so, it compels them to want to stay with the plan, just like you did. There's just something about it that I can't quite put my finger on other than to say that it's magical. It is magical. And more importantly to me is what it does to your mind. It sort of like calms you down a little bit. You know, you got to be in a tough pose sometimes and you got to be with it. And your mind is going, I hate this. I don't like this. This isn't comfortable. This isn't fun, but you're in it. And you learn to sort of accept what is. And you get better in your body, you get better in your mind, and you become calmer, and you handle life a little bit differently with a little bit more grace. And it's magic, not only physically, but mentally.
Well, you know, my problem now is I can't stop doing yoga because my team has seen the before age 50 Howard and the after 50. Now I'm 53. And it used to be, you know, you come in to work and, you know, there's this big old problem and I'm just kind of a manic guy and I'm like, you know, and you might be cussing or saying this or that or blah, 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 blah. But now at 5:30 yoga, which is 90 minutes. And now you walk in there and they say, oh, the whole building just burned down and a meteorite hit the backyard and we just had an earthquake and every single patient just filed a lawsuit. And you say, awesome. So what else? You know, anything else? You know, I mean, you're just so much more calm and relaxed. And that's where my friend Jerome Smith said it. He said that when he quits running, he doesn't like his mental health. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't run because he has a six pack and he's in great shape and what everybody thinks that you would want to exercise for to look hot or something. He says, Jerome Smith says, I run for mental health and I do yoga for mental health. So some of my friends ask me, they say, well, you know, you always heard in the 70s, you know, these hippies doing a meditation or whatever. And they say, well, is yoga meditation? And how would you answer? Is yoga a form of meditation? Because some people, you see these meditation, there's new apps out for meditation. What's the difference between what is meditation and is yoga kind of meditation?
So it's a really big question. It's really an important question too. In yoga, there's this book called the Yoga Sutras. A sutra comes from the word suture, a thread. And the second Yoga Sutra in Sanskrit says yogas chitta vritti nirodha. And that means yoga's purpose is to cease the chattering of the mind. So the purpose of yoga is not just the physicality, but it is the mentality. And if you were to go to India, you would not see calisthenics. You would not see people doing triangle and warrior and the poses. You would see them sitting their butt down and quieting their mind in a meditative state. That being said, I will tell you that for myself, when I do yoga and I'm in the poses and I'm feeling my muscles because I'm going inward, I'm penetrating my mind to go inward to feel what I'm sensing. That inner feeling of what I'm sensing is my anchor that allows me to have a meditation in movement. So the quieting of the mind is the purpose of yoga. And if you can do that by feeling the sensations or paying attention to what the teacher's saying and you're present in that moment, You're quieting your mind. That's meditation.
And I completely agree, because I think one of the things, I've done many different types of yoga. I've done Bikram, Sumits, Sumits, and and I think it's Sumits, and someone told me it was like Bikram's brother that started
Oh,
that chain or
oh,
whatever.
okay.
And then Lifetime Fitness, they have yoga classes, but I like Bikram the most. It's 26 poses, you do each one twice, but I notice this: if I'm thinking about my patient, my first patient, or I got to do something, maybe it's kind of an uncomfortable or stressful deal, whatever, then I'm falling out of my poses. And what I notice is that I can't think of anything outside of the yoga room, because I can barely do any of these poses. And so I have to stay focused, and I think that's what blocks out all the cluttering, all the chattering. So it's 90 minutes of non-dental. And for
You know,
me, that's
Howard,
just
the
magic.
mind can only think of one thing at a time. You might have a different brain than most people, I will say that, but you can do different things, but the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. And what they call it is an anchor. And so when you're in that room, that studio, your anchor is your body and your mind combined to one. So yoga means to yoke, to join two things together. So you're joining your body and your mind, and that anchor is allowing you to stay very present. You know, the first Yoga Sutra, Howard, it says Atha Yoganasasanam. Atha is the first word in all these expositions of these, aphorisms. There's 126 aphorisms, and the first word in all of it is Atha. And you know what that word means?
Jelly
Now.
donut.
Now. And it means now, in this moment, you and I are talking. And in the next moment, you and I are doing this. It's the moment by moment. And that moment by moment keeps you very, very present. You're not thinking about your patient. You're thinking about your yoga pose in that moment. And that's the quieting of the mind.
And the other thing that I compare yoga to golf, because I was on the golf high school team, only because my buddy wanted me to, Robert Donovan talked me into joining with him. But the neat thing with golf is you can be the worst golfer in the world, but out of 100 shots, one of them is good enough to where Tiger Woods would say, "Hey, good shot." You know what I mean? One out of 100 is going to be a shot, and that's what I like about yoga with 26 poses is even though I'm probably the oldest guy in the room, I'm always the oldest, fattest guy in the yoga studio. But what's cool for me is that at 26 moves, every class, one or two of those moves, I got a little further. Maybe I got my hand on the bottom of my foot, and sometimes during one class each day, I always think, damn, I can't believe I just did that. That was amazing. And what was also amazing, this is how bad I see it, but it was a year of yoga. Between one day I was pulling on my feet, stretching, and I felt something. I don't know if it was even lumbar or sacrum. I mean, something like thump. I mean, it was like an earthquake thump, and then immediately it was like the next swim class I had. My swim teacher, I didn't tell her obviously anything about that, and she just said, "Howard, you're finally rotating your hips." And I
Wow.
thought, damn, I bet that's the first time whatever the hell had just moved in probably 25 years.
You
And
must
I
have been in
mean,
a lot of pain before you did yoga.
well, all my pain was in the neck. I mean, the other stuff was annoying, but the neck was an electrical pain. So I'm a dentist. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not any of this stuff, but come on. I mean, this is Dentistry Uncensored. A lot of this carpal tunnel catastrophe in dentistry. I mean, I just call bullshit. I mean,
Do you know where carpal tunnel comes a lot from?
what?
The neck. Absolutely the neck.
Well,
Because everything emanates from the central spine. So if your cervical vertebrae are a problem, it's chasing down the hand. And oftentimes people will get carpal tunnel syndrome and it doesn't heal the problem because it's not where the source is.
Yeah, well, what I meant by calling bullshit is not if you're listening to this and you had carpal tunnel, it's not that I don't believe that you have the symptoms and all this stuff. I just believe it's because you're not taking care of your instrument.
Absolutely.
And that going to a surgeon to cut on your tendons and give you a pill. I mean, why don't you just go to a medicine man dressed up and running around a campfire mixing lotions and potions in a bowl? I mean that you're basically in full blown quackery as it is. And you just know if this person went to yoga 90 minutes, if someone talk to this person right now, they're listening to you, they have neck pain, they go to a chiropractor 3 times a week, and a doctor wants to do carpal tunnel surgery on them. What would you tell them they would have to do to heal that inside out versus letting a chiropractor? Because I explain a chiropractor, because I went to one 3 times a week for 25. They move you from the outside. They're moving you. And I think it's very different when you're moving yourself.
Absolutely. I do a style called Iyengar. BKS Iyengar was this really amazing guy. He's probably as intelligent as you are. He created these poses that can be therapeutic. So, for example, David, my husband, will say to me, my back is hurting. I'll put him on my yoga wall in the house where I have a yoga studio. I'll put him on the yoga wall. For 5 minutes, I'll traction his spine with just yoga ropes on the wall. Walks way better. And it's just that he is working the spine. He is working the bones in alignment. And when the bones are aligned, the muscles go where they need to go and they don't fight. The body's beautiful at accommodating itself. It will just do anything it can to stay out of pain or to prevent it. And the yoga miraculously aligns the body in ways that no one else can externally. Only you can do that.
The other thing I noticed that I wish the wrestling coaches out there, because the only reason I'm really a dentist is because the only reason I went to high school was for the wrestling team. And when my dad used to beg me to drop out of high school and start my own restaurant and everything, the only reason I really didn't want to drop out of high school was for the wrestling team. And the only reason I paid attention in class is because every one of my friends who got a D or an F, I mean, these were Catholic schools ran by nuns and priests. I mean, you got a D or an F, you were off all sports. They didn't care if you were the starting quarterback. No one gave a crap. Yeah. School was first, and sports were extracurricular, and those
which
nuns,
is good. Which is good.
Yeah, and those nuns were focused. But the thing about the yoga, I wish I would have known. And my boys we all wrestled 7 days a week from probably age 5 to 15. Some of my boys went years without even losing a single match. But
wow.
The art of stretching is pulling, and in wrestling, you would just lean forward and try to touch your toes and all that stuff. But it took me about a year of yoga to realize that if you really want to stretch, you should really be pulling. And I just thought stretching was leaning over and just using your weight. But in yoga, you grab the bottom of your feet and you pull. And pulling.
Well, wait a second. Let's just be careful here. You have to move mindfully. That is really important. Here's the thing, Howard. You're not just pulling to strain the muscle. You're pulling with the muscle having some integration. Right? So your actions of your legs, your quadriceps, for example, are lifting up as you stretch over to your toes so you can get the hamstring to stretch. It's not like you're just like a bag of weightedness and just hanging down, because then you're going to pull tendons. You have to move very carefully, very mindfully. And you are taught that when you're doing your poses. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be careful that people aren't going to start touching their toes and start straining their muscles, but lengthening the muscle is different than straining the muscle.
Okay, the evidence I have on these podcasts is it's probably all dentists. So, So what do you think is an occupational injury from sitting on a stool doing dentistry all day that could be corrected by mindful moving, stretching, yoga? I mean, what benefits? What do you see that is a negative physicality of doing dentistry all day, sitting on a stool, leaning over?
Here's the problem that I have. The biggest problem is forward flexion, lateral rotation, which means that the dentist is forward and twisted. And those two things are 2 out of 3. That is going to cause a problem. And the third could actually be the neck is twisted. So you're forward flexed, you're laterally rotated, and your head is twisting. And it's not normally on its axis. And
forward flex, laterally twisted,
laterally extended, and the head twisted.
Yeah.
So it's forward, sideways, twisted.
Yeah.
That's 3. That's 3 strikes. You're only given about 3, and that doesn't even include your shoulder girdle, your hips, how you're sitting in the chair. If you're not sitting centered in the chair and your butt's hanging off, you got a problem.
And a lot of dentists suffer from lower back pain, but I've noticed this. Again, I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but I've noticed this. You notice all the patients who had back pain had their lower vertebrae fused, 10 years ago. It's like 10 years later, then it's the other end of the spine. Now they got to get all their necks fused, and they don't really see
Howard, I always say this. First off, as I think you mentioned earlier, the body is so incredibly intelligent. It is unbelievably intelligent. It will figure out ways of fixing things and making things at the cellular level better or worse. And the spine is like physics. What happens at the first cervical vertebrae is going to happen at the coccyx because it's a balance point. So what happens in your neck happens in your lower back. What happens in your shoulders happens in your hips. It has to work that way in order for the spine to stay in some sort of equipoise, in some sort of equilibrium. So if your head is forward all day, trust me, your lower back is round too. It's hard to do this and stick your butt out. It's hard to lean your chest forward and stick your butt out. The body will create ways of working itself so that it stays in as little pain as possible. But Howard, the problem is that you get dentists who don't listen to the whisper of the first pain and they work through it. And they don't listen to the next shout and they work through it until the body is screaming and saying, stop already. And the stop becomes so painful that they have to have surgery because they have no other recourse. But if they would listen to the whisper or listen to the shout before it gets to the pain, they would have so much better outcome.
Okay, I want to hear. These are just things that my dentist buddies in Phoenix say when we go to yoga. They say, well, first of all, girls are born more flexible than guys, and that girl's doing that over there because she's a girl. Are girls more flexible than guys?
Girls have different muscular tone. Obviously, men have a lot more testosterone. They have a lot more thickness to their muscle. They've got, a different muscle. It doesn't mean they don't have flexibility potential. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means women are designed differently.
And the other thing I always tell them is that the key to doing Ironman or yoga or whatever is never compare yourself to anyone else. Only compare yourself to how you were yesterday. Like if you saw me naked, you'd throw up. But comparing myself to 3 years ago, I look like Brad Pitt. Yeah. And the same thing in yoga. It's like, you see people next to you look like a pretzel. And it's like, well, I'm not that person. But yeah, I tell you what, I can do a lot more today than I did 3 years ago.
Yeah. I got to tell you two things. Yoga is not about what it looks like. It's about what it feels like.
So I got to ask you, I don't think I've ever seen a woman in yoga class without a tattoo. So I think I'm the only guy. I'm the oldest guy in there, the fattest guy in there, and the only one without a tattoo.
I have no tattoos.
Real? Are you kidding me?
I have no tattoos.
I don't think you can tell. I don't think you can be a yoga instructor without a tattoo. Is it more? Do yoga people have more tattoos than non-yoga people? I have to ask you that.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Really?
Not in Boca Raton.
Oh, okay. So it might be regional.
Maybe. Because there's a lot of Jewish people in Boca Raton, and they don't get tattoos, most of them.
Oh, is that it's anti-religious?
From the Nazis. When they were numbered.
Okay, so it's not in the Torah. It's not the first 5.
I don't know about that, but when there was the Holocaust, they got those tattoos of their numbers. Yeah. So it's in honor of that. You don't do anything to your own body.
It probably is culture because I've been saying since 1990 that the region between San Fran, Portland, and Seattle has more tattoos per person than any place or country I've ever seen. I mean, it's just like, dentists come to your courses sleeved. And you're like, wow, dude, if you were in Wichita, Kansas, I don't even know if you could have a practice. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's different.
It's all good.
So, it's just art. So I got to ask you another question. The dentist asked me this the other day. What if he said, what's the difference between yoga and Pilates? And is there pros and cons? Because he's a dentist and he's 50, he's heavy, and he's thinking, because it's 2 different studios and it's 2 different memberships. What would be the pros and cons of joining a yoga versus a Pilates? And explain to Pilates, because I didn't know what it was until I went to a class.
So Pilates is a man named Joseph Pilates, and it's very core-centric. It's about using your, what they call powerhouse. It's about using your core muscles. And it's very, very alignment-based, and a huge part of it is posture. It's phenomenal. It's very linear. Yoga is very dynamic, And yoga has a component that I don't think Pilates has, which is the mindfulness. And I think for me, as I've gotten older, the yoga has seeped into me a little bit deeper with a little bit more depth and breadth with regards to who I am as a person and not just the physicality. And so that's a little bit of a bonus for a person who wants more than just the physical.
Yeah, I agree. I think I will always do yoga for the mental health. And here's another thing. Maybe this is too much information and kind of creepy, but if I don't do yoga, when we talk about organs, I mean, the skin is the biggest organ. I mean, if you've ever gone elk hunting and you field dress an elk, I mean, the skin is just, I mean, it's massive and the weight of it is incredible. And it's our largest organ. And I think our second largest is like liver, and the liver is much smaller than the skin. But I notice this, if I don't do yoga, say for 2 weeks, and I go in there and I'm doing yoga, the sweat, when it goes into my eyes, burns. When I do yoga 3 times a week, the sweat, when it goes in your eyes, it's like sailing. So it's just massive empirical evidence to me that, and then you look at crystal meth addicts, the crystal meth works out through the skin. Lots of things go out through the urine, some go out through the breath, but the amphetamines like caffeine, nicotine, crystal meth work out through the skin. They got all those splotches and everything. And I just think yoga is just taking your largest organ and just squeezing it out like a chamois cloth. And then my boys, I don't want to embarrass any of them, but their friends, when they go with us, they all say that it completely clears up acne. If they got a dose of acne coming, they'll go in that, what is it, 105 degrees?
106, but that's Bikram. Now, some people don't like Bikram. It's a lot of mental stuff. Here's what I will say about something really important, Howard. There is a yoga for every body and there's a yoga for everybody. Meaning I can't do Bikram. I have my own personal summers. I don't need more heat.
Because you're in Florida.
Well, I'm postmenopausal, but when I was menopausal, let me tell you, I was hot and I didn't want to go into a heated room. And so for me, that method didn't work for me. The Iyengar method and the Vinyasa method works beautifully for me personally. And so I'm saying this because it's like religion. Everyone wants some religion, whether you're Judaic or Christian, everyone's getting up the mountain, just a different path. People can do all different kinds of yoga and find the same end result, a great body, a clear, clean, calm mind.
Okay,
That's just what I think.
We'll go over 85% of my listeners are in the United States. The other 15% are in every country that iTunes measures. Go through a couple of different types of yoga. So like I said, some of the big brand names out here, and it might be different, Bikram, Sumit, Lifetime. Have you heard of Lifetime Fitness?
Yes.
They have a yoga class in there. Can you go over some? Because I want you to talk to this individual who might be thinking what they would like or not like.
Sure. So I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 different ones. Primarily Bikram is named after a guy, Chaudhry Bikram, and there are 26 poses. It's 106 degrees. It's a lot of mental, getting over the mentality of how hot it is, and you've got to get over that. Great practice because you can check your progress. Another style is vinyasa, which means linking breath with movement.
Wait, I'm sorry. I got to back up. What do you say? It links your process, or it gives you feedback?
You can check your progress.
Check your progress. What does that mean?
Like you said, the first day you did a triangle, your hand hardly touched the floor. 3 weeks later, 3 months later, you can put your hand on the floor and go, "Oh my gosh!"
Okay.
That's
very
progress.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to say, you said it's 106 degrees.
Hot as hell.
No, I'm in Phoenix. I love going from the parking lot where it's 112 into a nice, cool room that's 106. I enjoy cooling off in the yoga studio.
Well, in Florida, you go from hot to hot too. So, I get your language. Next is vinyasa, which means linking breath with movement. So it's a lot faster paced, although there are some teachers that go slower, and you're working on certain sequences of poses. So you might do like a warrior 2, you might do a triangle, you might do a side lengthening pose, and then you go to the other side and you're done. And then there's another like back bending series where you'll lift your chest and do a little camel, or you'll do these little poses that are back bending. So there's different sequences. My favorite for dentists, by far, is the Iyengar method. And the reason why, Howard...
Can you spell that?
You bet. Iyengar. Iyengar. And there's a few
Ryan
reasons
Google
why.
Iyengar yoga. She said that's the best yoga she's ever done.
Iyengar. BKS
Iyengar.
Iyengar. He died last year, a year and a half ago, at 96 years old. The reason I like the Iyengar method is, number one, the teachers are beyond well trained. I started doing my training. It's 3 years of intense training before you get an introductory certification. These teachers are like physical therapists, and you can go to them with a problem and they will fix the problem quickly, and they will do it in a way that is very safe. Iyengar was the one who taught yoga with all the props. So he was the one that brought in the block, brought in the strap, brings in the blankets, brings in the wall. And so he's the one who allowed yoga to be accessible to everybody, so that anybody could do yoga and be able to touch their hand to the floor, but they brought the floor up by putting a block on the floor. And so they were able to get the poses biomechanically tight and strong, but you may not have gone all the way down to the floor. I like that method for dentists, because the dentist who is in pain or the dentist who has a problem can go to that teacher and say, how do I fix this? Or what poses do I need to do that? What poses do I need to help me? And they will help the student greatly, quickly, without getting them in more pain. The other types of two other yogas that I really like, one is called restorative and one is called yin. Yin, it works connective tissues, it works the fascia, which is just an amazing, amazing connective tissue in the body. It works the tendons, the ligaments, the bones, the cartilage. That's yin. And the other practice that I really love, which is very complementary to these strong, hard, muscular types of yoga, is restorative, where you lay over blocks or blankets and you're trying to really get the body in homeostasis. And it calms the mind, it calms the brain, it calms all of the systems, the cardiovascular system, the neuromuscular system, all these systems of the body, the hormone, the endocrine system. It makes all of that come into alignment in homeostasis. And it's a beautiful practice. It's called restorative. So, you know, there's something for everybody, and that was only a few. There's Kundalini, there's all these other styles too. There's Barkin, there's so many different kinds. You know, the most important thing is that you find one that works for you personally. Howard, you like hot yoga. I don't. It all is good. It's all good. It doesn't matter. It's all great.
Well, to go with my boys and other dentist friends, whatever, you know, I go to several, and they all pros and cons. Like Sumits, I love the most because they play music. But Bikram, you know, growing up going to Catholic mass, everything, Bikram's like Catholic mass. I mean, if you talk
Strict.
to the person next to you, you get scolded. I mean, it
You can't
really
get water sometimes.
You what?
You can't get water sometimes.
Oh, I know. You can't even take a drink for the first 30 minutes. It's basically that church mentality. You know,
There's a purpose to that. You know,
and what is that?
It's about getting over your mental fluctuations. It's like your mind is going, I hate this. I hate this. This is so unfair. And yet you're there in it. And you're working on that acceptance of what is. And that's how you alluded to your dental practice when you came in and they were going to, you know, all your patients were canceling and you go, oh, that's what is. Okay, let's move on. Next pose, next patient.
Yeah, nothing has calmed me down more in my life than Bikram yoga and taking a sleep study course where he started learning about sleep. And as he's going through sleep hygiene, I'm like, oh my God, I violate every single rule. I go to sleep with the big screen TV on. I have lights. I just making sleep routine where I go to sleep this time. There's no electronics on. There's no phone on. There's no nothing. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, tough, you're just going to lay there. You're not going to leave your room until 4:45. So if it's 3, just deal with it. And so you eventually just fall back asleep or whatever. But sleep hygiene and yoga is just to get a good night's rest. I spent all those years, 11 o'clock watching, those Stephen Colbert and The Daily Show and all those things. And I should have been asleep. I should have been asleep.
Your eyes and your brain, by the way, Howard, there's a direct relationship between your eyes and your brain. So you want to play for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to look forward, yeah, and stare at something for just a moment and notice the activity of your brain. And then I want you to lift your eyes up and lower your eyes down and bring your eyes left and bring your eyes right and bring your eyes up and bring your eyes down and bring your eyes left and bring your eyes right, and then stare forward. Forward. Now, you can relax. Do you feel something happen in your brain when you have the movement of the eye and the brain's activity and your eyes just being focused, centered, and straight? So there is a direct relationship between the eyes and the brain, and it's called a drishti. And when you're holding your foot with your leg up in the air, you're holding like this, for example, your drishti straight ahead, it keeps your mind calm. If you're looking all over the room, you're falling out of the pose because your mind is active. So this is really important because when we do dentistry and when we're reading and when we're doing active things, our eyes are all over the place like a pinball in a ball in a machine. It's ricocheting everywhere. So if we can, we need to just for a moment, just look forward and just quiet our mind for a moment. I will literally sometimes go in the bathroom and just sit down and be quiet for a moment, just to get away from it all and just hibernate for a moment and just sit in there.
So there's probably lots and lots of dentists. I would estimate over 100 dentists listening right now who's got kids in school and the teacher's telling them their kid's ADD and should take a pill. What would your thoughts be on that? I mean, I know I'm a dentist, you're a hygienist, but here's
what I say about that, and I talk about this when I lecture. I want to know why physical education class, whether it's Pilates, whether it's yoga, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's swimming, whatever it is, why have those physical education classes been taken out of schools for children, along with art, along with music? And yet we ask kids to sit in these wooden chairs for 6 hours a day. There is no freaking way kids can do that. And the question I have is, why is physical education class not part of a dental school or dental hygiene curriculum? It should be one of the classes you take. You take chemistry, you take, and dental anatomy, you take whatever, pharmacology, whatever. Why can't a physical education class be part of that curriculum? Because you would learn that in order to be a dentist, you have to move your body. That's part and parcel for doing dentistry. But if you don't have that paradigm set up initially, you don't know that. It's too foreign. You have to then go and do movement. It's not part of who you are. So do you understand what I'm saying?
I think it's amazing. I mean, I never have once ever thought about why there wasn't physical education in
it's stupid.
Because I had an undergrad in
kids. You can't do that to kids. Yeah. I think ADD is way overprescribed, and I'm sorry, because the kids are suffering. And it's because of one thing, that the teacher has to have control of 30 plus kids. And in order for her to have control, she has to have everybody cookie cuttered. Well, guess what? Kids are not cookie cutters. Every kid learns very differently. Some kids learn kinesthetically. Some kids learn verbally. Some kids learn auditorily, as you know. And, Michael Jordan is one of those kinesthetic learners. Put him in a chair for a day, he's not going to sit there. He has to move. And so we are just killing our kids. I teach educational psychology. That's my master's degree. So I'm not foreign to this. And I think it's pathetic. I really do. And I don't want to get on a soapbox about it. I do lecture about it. This is part of my lecture. Why is physical education not part of schooling?
Well, I want to get your lecture on Dental Town. We put up 350 courses. They've been viewed over 500,000 times because dentists, it's just so much nicer to be laying in your couch on your iPad and watch a course than having to, like right now, the ADA convention is on. Oh. And people are asking me, you're going to go to the ADA convention? It's like, well, wow, do you really want to fly to DC, stay in a hotel to go listen to Juli lecture there? Or do you want to sit there and crawl up on your couch and turn on your iPad and go to Dental Town? And the views they're insane. I mean, they passed 500,000 views. And I also thought it might be cool if you tied it into your book. I'm talking about your book, author of Mind Your Body. And can you get that on Amazon right now?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Easy.
You should do a course on Dental Town where they subscribe and pay for your course. They get your book. They get to listen to the author for an hour. And because the one thing all the dental mentors and consultants will tell you is that when you're going in to help a dentist turn their office around, you're trying to consult that. Basically 80% of the game is in our armchair psychologist. You're trying to get that dentist head on straight. You got to reframe how he looks at things. Yep.
I can't agree with you more.
And if you can get that doc's head on right, and you can get that head happy and healthy, everything falls in place. And that's why I called you. You didn't call me on this podcast. And that's why I think you should do an online CE course tied into your book. They pay for your course. They get a book shipped to them. They get to speak to the author. And since it's internet, that your course, it could be 30 minutes, an hour, 3 days, 40 nights. But if a dentist gets their head on straight, everything falls in line. And if your head's on wrong, we could both talk about this forever. And we know it because we're over 50, and they don't know it because they're under 30. They're going to have to fall down for a decade before they realize that some of this is your attitude. Some of this is the way you look at it.
They're not listening to the whisper.
Yeah.
They're not listening to that first time their back hurts or their neck hurts. And they go, oh, it's okay. I got to work. They got to do yoga. They got to do Pilates. They got to do something that moves them intelligently.
And I'm going to tell them something too. They got to use that damn dental mirror, and they got to put on loupes. And as young as your eye is, and I know you can just look straight at it, and it's so tempting to look straight at it, and it takes a massive amount of discipline to say, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put on my loupes. I'm going to sit up straight. And I'm going to look through that mirror, because your tiger mentality just wants to stick your entire head inside their mouth and twist it up underneath the roof of their mouth. And you do that for 10, 20, 30 years. There's going to be a big price to pay.
Yeah. I used to teach in a dental school, and I would often snap photos, of these young dentists. And I would just get so sad because their biomechanics were just ridiculous. It's funny, Howard, when I asked David, what was it about his loupes that sort of helped him so much? He uses 6 power, whatever he uses there, whatever. He said he could see. He could finally see. And when you have loupes, it keeps the distance so that your neck isn't craning. Howard, this is the interesting fact that you'll like to hear. The neck weighs about 15 to 25 pounds, approximately. Some heads are heavier than others. I would say yours is probably at the 25 end. Mine's probably at the 15 end. But we won't talk about that. You got
5 pounds of hair. I'm bald. My head should weigh less than yours.
But your brain is bigger than mine.
Oh.
And the brain is fat and water. So anyway, here's the thing. For every inch that your head is craned forward, it doubles in weight. So if your head is off by an inch, you go from 15 to 30. If your head is 25 pounds, it goes from 25 to 50. You go 2 inches, you're going to like 100 pounds, your head weighs. So your head is like a bowling ball on a Tootsie Roll Pop, where the Tootsie Roll is like your spine, the stick is like your spine, and then you've got the hard casing, which is like your skull, and you got the Tootsie Roll inside of it, which is like your brain and your muscles, and you got this bowling ball hanging off of it, and you wonder why your neck hurts. If you had loupes, it would keep the biomechanics tight because you wouldn't be craning your neck. The other thing I would say about that is, I say this all the time when I lecture, is that, dentistry, clinical dentistry is an athletic event. You have to have muscular endurance, you have to have strength, you have to have flexibility, you have to have all those things that an athlete would need. And if you don't come from a quote unquote ready position, you're screwed. And let me explain what I mean by that. Give me any sport and I'll show you what the biomechanics is. So tell me any sport.
Football, NFL,
okay. So in football,
Cardinals.
They're down and forward, right? You're down and forward on the line of scrimmage. Give me another sport.
Basketball.
Basketball. When they shoot the basket, the body is forward and upward, right? It's not vertical, it's forward and upward. When you do dentistry, you have to do it leaning in from your waist forward. It's called anteversion, where you're sort of pitched a little bit forward on your chair so that you're not rounding your back to get to the person, but that you're lengthening your spine to get to the person. And I talk a lot about this. It's a new thing of thinking. It's a new way of thinking. But I think that dentistry and dental hygiene clinical is an athletic event.
Talk about your book, Mind Your Body. Mind Your Body by Juli Kagan, Kagan, on Amazon.com. You should do a book review of that for the magazine or the website or something. But talk about your book.
Well, my book was written a long time ago, like 2008, and I wrote it because I was a Pilates teacher at the time, as well as a dental hygiene, and my forte in the dental profession is being able to go to dental schools where I taught for 16 years and look at a student and say, here's what they need to fix in order to get their spine and their arms and their hands to work properly. Because students don't know what to do, and a lot of teachers wouldn't know how to get them to be where they needed to be. So they'd call me and say, how do I fix this person? And so I thought, you know what, I want to write a book that will help people sit in a chair more comfortably. And so they sit with their spine straight, they sit tall and strong, and they feel better when they're working at a chair at a desk. I originally wrote the manuscript for dental professions, and then I spoke to the publisher, and they said, you know what, it's too confining. Open it up to people who sit. And so it became dental, from the dental to the seated professional. It's a great book because it's a great book. I sound so conceited, but it's a great book because
it is a great book.
It's got 3 sections. The first section is about releasing specific joints. The second section is the literal Pilates mat workout. And the third section are exercises that a person can do at a chair at a desk. So there's 3 different ways that the person can use the book. And anybody can contact me and I can help them with specific problems and say, turn to this page for this problem.
And how do they contact you?
How do they contact me? JuliKagan.com.
But it's Juli is spelled Juli. There's
right.
no E on it. Your mother did that just to throw everyone a softball curve.
Yeah.
Juli, Juli, Kagan, Kagan.com.
Yep.
And what is my listeners going to hear on, what are they going to find at JuliKagan.com? What's all on that website?
Well, a lot of it is, I have 2 main programs that I really love teaching, which is Mind Your Body and Mind Your Breath. We didn't talk about breath today, and that's fine, but there's a direct correlation like you had earlier with your eyes and your brain. There's a direct correlation between your breath and the calmness of your mind. So if people are hyperventilating, their mind is crazy. If people breathe calmly, their mind is calm. That's why we say to a patient before we give an injection, can you take a breath from me? It calms the mind. And so when we're working, here's the problem, Howard. When we work down and forward, and it closes off our lungs. And we wonder at the end of the day why we're so tired. Because we're not breathing fully. We're not breathing. So there's a direct relationship between our breath and our mind and our body.
You know
what?
So
that's that. And so one second. So on my website is my, Mind Your Body and Mind Your Breath. And then I do adventures. I do retreats. I go around the world and I teach yoga, teach Pilates. And, I'm very lucky. So that's sort of what I do.
I have one friend, and I don't want to say his name because I know Ken's going to know I'm talking about him. But over the last 30 years, 25 times I've gone by his office. He'll be given a shot, and then he puts the shot on the tray, and then he stands up, and then as he walks into the aisle or whatever where I'm at, he just like, and it's like he always holds his breath during the entire shot, and then he pulls it out, puts it in, stands up, and just lets that air out. And you're just thinking, damn, dude. I mean, and I've asked him before, I said, you don't like giving shots, do you? He goes, no, I hate him. But I think a big part of it is he's holding his breath the whole time.
Direct relationship.
So what would you tell Ken to do?
I guarantee you his patients feel that.
So what should Ken do specifically?
Breathe in for 5, breathe out for 5. So as he aspirates, breathe in for 2. As he gives the injection, breathe out for 5. So exhaling is calming. Inhaling is inspiring. So if he exhales longer than he inhales, he will calm his own central nervous system down as he's giving the injection. The worst thing he's doing is holding his breath because he's holding energy. And his patients, I guarantee you, feel that energy. I guarantee his patients would say, he doesn't give a great injection. If he breathed easily, his patients would feel that. It comes through the metal. And I know I sound a little woo-woo, I sound a little esoteric, but I truly believe that. We hold energy. We are electric. That's why we have electroencephalograms and electrocardiograms. We are electric. People feel our energy. And yoga moves the energy. That's why we feel so good when we're done. It moves all the energy in our body and it aligns it up. That's why we feel so good after yoga, because it's really moving energy.
Well, I can just tell. I mean, when he walks out, you can just tell that he just walked out of a very stressful situation. I mean, he just comes out and just says, like,
yeah,
you can
feel it.
Yeah, it doesn't look happy or anything. It looks like he just did something that was bad or something.
Painful.
You know? Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
So, another reason I want you to put that course up is because everybody who puts a online course up, they always tell me speaking committees. There's about 278 dental societies that hire speakers, and it's all volunteers. You know, the executive director will go get 3 people to raise their hand, then they'll give them specific instructors. Pick the next speakers. You find one in endo. You find one in ortho. You find one in whatever. But the number one complaint of every dental convention known to man has always been there was nothing for my staff, and that's why they have practice management. This is for the staff, and so then this person will go on to Dental Town where everybody's just does an hour, and it's kind of like their debut. It's kind of like so a guy wants to find an endo speaker, so he'll go listen to 6 guys, 1 hour each, and say, well, I really like the 5th one. And then,
hey, Howard, I want to share that one of my favorite things to do, other than work with the body in front of me, because that's my specialty, you come to me with a problem and I fix your specific problem, is I love doing lunch and learn, sort of gifts to dental offices. So as an example, if a dental team got a bonus, they would hire me to come in and do a 2 or 3 hour session with them, teach them about biomechanics, teach them about what they can do in their chair, and then I do like a little yoga class with them. And it's a gift that the dentist gives the staff, and they hire me to do that. That's one of my favorite things to do. So I just wanted to share that with you and your listeners.
And when you show up, you have a big box of jelly donuts too, just like the Shine rep?
Absolutely.
Hey,
I bring fruit. No, I'm kidding.
You said ergonomics. You when you go to these conventions right now, there's a lot of people pushing ergonomic chairs. You see some people. There's so many different shaped chairs. Some of them look like a horse saddle. Some of them look like a teepee. Talk about that. Is that marketing or myth or real?
It's real simple. Get one that fits for you. Period. I am kind of thin and I'm kind of bony. My ischial tuberosities are my sit bones. I don't sit easily on a saddle. It hurts me. I have to sit in a different chair. It's better for my butt. Every body has a different body, and what might work for one may not work for another. So I always say test drive a chair.
What do you think about these dental receptionists? If you go into 25 dental offices in a row, you'll find one receptionist sitting on a big ball that's in a rack with 4 wheels on it, because if she didn't have the rack, the ball would be rolling all around. But she basically sits on a ball, and 100% of them totally believe in it, love it. And what they always tell me is they say, well, if you sit on a chair, all your muscles go limp. But when you sit on a ball, your core muscles. What do you think about a dental receptionist who's sitting on the phone all day, sitting on a ball?
Here's what I think. If it works for you, use it. If it doesn't work for you, don't fight it. I will say about the ball, it is very good because it works all these little ancillary muscles. All these little muscles get recruited to help with the balancing. However, Howard, you have to have a learning curve to sit on that chair. If you try to sit on if you try to sit on a ball the first day, you're going to be in pain at the end of the day because your body is not used to doing all these little things in order to sit upright. But if one day you're on for an hour and the next day you're on, or 15 minutes and 30 minutes and then 45 minutes, and you learn to be on the ball, it's great. But again, is it the right height? Is the ball, can it be the right height next to the computer? There's so many variables that it's hard for me to say. I just say get a chair that works for you, that you're in comfortably. Some people don't like the armrest. Some people do like the armrest. Some people like a saddle. But what I will say is that if you're anteverted, you're much better off.
Okay, I'll go back to my my observation, my personal observation. if you go into 25 dental offices, one out of every 25 has got a deal in the break room where they get in there and they hook their feet in there and then they lean back and now they're upside down hanging because they're always complaining about lower back problems.
Inversion machines.
Yeah, they tip back. So next thing you know, they're basically hanging by their ankles upside down because they have back issues. What do you think of that?
So I personally love inverting. I do headstands. I do handstands daily. I do shoulder stand every day. It's great for your brain. It's great for your circulation of your legs. However, that being said, I have a little reluctancy on the inversion machines because it's very passive, which means that the musculature is not holding you up. So if you're doing a headstand or you're doing a shoulder stand or you're doing a handstand, the muscles of your body are inverting you. When you're in a machine, you're passive. And what I'm concerned about is that you get all this openness and this spaciousness, which is delightful and phenomenal, but flip the thing back up and you get gravity compressing all that down. That's a concern for me. If you don't have the musculature supporting that spaciousness that you've created. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
I'm a little reluctant to go on these inversion machines. My dad has one. You know, I'm reluctant to recommend them because I'm concerned about what happens when you come out of it, not when you're in it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So here's what I want you to do for your close. We're at 57 minutes. I only get you for 3 more minutes.
Okay.
And then you're going to hang up the phone and call David and say Howard said that he's the luckiest man on earth being married to you. And I want you to do this. You know more than I do. And I've been in Phoenix 28 years, and every year 1 to 3 dentists commit suicide. 18% will go to inpatient care to the Betty Ford Center for at least 90 to 120 days. The profession has been known to have burnout, suicide. All that. Yeah. If someone said to me, who in dentistry has the most inner joy, I'd say Juli Kagan.
I always sign off, I am enjoy.
I am enjoy. Do you?
I am is soham in Sanskrit. I am ... in joy, and I am in gratitude is always my tagline. I just posted on Facebook and Instagram before I got on here, and it says I am in joy, I am in gratitude. So thank you for saying that, because if you said that on your own volition, I am in joy. Well, I am in gratitude.
I know. I just said that. I know that came from the heart. Crazy. So I want you to talk to this dentist. He's driving to work. He's burned out. He's fried. The only relief he gets is after work. He drinks 2 buds and pops a Vicodin, or he eats a large cheese pizza. And he can't get out of this dental office because it's the only way he can feed his family. It's the only thing he knows how to do to make 6 figures. Talk to that guy for 3 minutes for your close. What exactly should that dentist do? Burned out, fried.
First off, the first thing I would tell him, believe it or not, is to stand in the earth, stand in the ground with your bare feet, stand in the ground, feel the earth underneath you, and look up. Because there's a direct relationship between you looking up and your physiology. It's almost impossible to be depressed if you lift your chest and lift your heart and look up. That's why it's called lightheartedness. So the first thing I would do is get them in the ground to ground them down, but also lift up, look up, and take deep breaths, big inspirations, less expirations. And I would strongly encourage them to go to a basic yoga class. Doesn't have to be expensive. Just play yoga. Just play with it. Just play yoga. Don't make it hard. Don't bring a mentality of, I got to push hard. I got to make this work. I got to do this really strong. Just go there and have some fun with it and see how you feel after 21 days. Just give it a shot. If you don't like it, you never have to go back. You're no worse for the wear. But give it a good shot. And that's what I would say.
I love the way you said play yoga, because that's exactly why I quit golf. I mean, it's not fun to go golfing with 4 dentists that when they miss a shot, they yell profanity, throw a club. The last straw for me was in Maui, and a guy missed a shot, and the dentist took his entire golf bag and threw it in the fountain. And I'm like, I'm like, dude, I don't even like you on the golf course. You're not even my friend. I mean, we already got a stressful career. We got enough stress in life. I want to have fun. And then they said they're like, don't talk during golf. And it's like some weird religion with a lot of profanity and throwing golf clubs. It's like play yoga. Go in there,
Howard,
play yoga.
There's a great teacher in California, Santa Monica, named Brian Kest, who brought yoga to California. He was pretty much the first guy. And he says, don't bring your stress mentality into this practice because you don't want to be nurturing and nourishing that attitude. Bring a calm mind and nurture that. That's what yoga is about. It's not about bringing that, what he calls that shit, into your yoga mat, because he doesn't want that nurtured.
And to all the men out there, if you're not sure about yoga, just go to yoga, just take a lawn chair, sit in the back of the room, watch all those girls do yoga for an hour. I swear to God.
Skimpy outfits.
Oh my God, you'll be hooked.
The ratio is crazy.
Yeah, and there's usually like three guys and 50 hot women in bikinis, and so that's kind of a motivator in and of itself. But hey, Julie, you're an amazing woman. I love your karma. I love your inner joy. You've always been a delight, and that's why I want to push you out more. I hope you do an online seat course. Email me something where I can post that book, because you said 2008 is an old book. That ain't old at all. I mean, have all my favorite books that I do a second read on, they're all 20, 30, 40, 100 years old.
Oh, great. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Actually, someone yesterday inspired me. A girlfriend of mine who I do yoga with, she said, you need to write your next book on joy. I was like, okay.
Especially in our profession. There's a lot of police officers are having it too. There's so much bad press on police officers, and all the good ones are just feeling, they don't get any joy out of their career anymore. Everybody thinks, they're an abusive person, and they're out there trying to keep everyone safe. So, hey, thank you so much for spending an hour.
Namaste. I honor the light in you. I honor who you are and the essence of who you are, the love in you. I honor it so much. Thank you. Thank you, Howard, for bringing so much light to so many people.
Well, same back at you. Namaste to you, Julie. Have a rocking good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.